Good morning, folks. I'm sorry I'm running a minute late. I do apologize for that. I was reading up on Olaf Scholz from Germany. We've got a couple really big stories for you today, but we're going to start locally with Trump. So grab some coffee, grab a pen and paper. And let's get into this. Good morning, folks. Glad to be with you. I'm sorry we missed Friday. It was unavoidable. Our wonderful healthcare system here in the United States. We, forgive me, it's difficult when you've got to get a last minute doctor's appointment to grab one. You take what you can get. And it was either take the appointment on Friday or not take one until the end of January. And I kind of needed to get it done. It was got it taken care of. Everything's fine. I'm in great shape and everything's going good. Everything is going good. I appreciate you being patient with me. I appreciate you being back with me. While I was away, Trump has just lost his ever loving mind. I mean, it is getting worse and worse and worse. I've got a few videos from you. I know I hate to hear this guy's voice too. I really do. But it's really best just to hear it out of his own mouth. It really is best just to hear it out of his own mouth. This is Trump at a rally in Sioux City, Iowa, this week.
A very big hello to a place where we've done very well, Sioux Falls. Thank you very much, Sioux Falls. And thank you. So Sioux City, let me ask you.
So Sioux City, yeah, Sioux City's a major city in Iowa. Really, a little bit of history for you. That's where my mom and dad met. That's where my mom and dad met. My dad's originally from Wisconsin, and my mom was from a little town in Iowa called Council Bluffs, Iowa, which is right across the border from Omaha, Nebraska. She had moved up to Sioux City, took a job working as a telephone operator, and my dad was just a hellraiser back then. He That's where they hooked up, and wasn't for old Sioux City, old Texas Paul wouldn't be here today. Dad came down to Lackland Air Force Base after he joined the Air Force. Stepped off the plane in mid-December, and the grass was green, and he said that was it for him. Having lived his whole life in Iowa, where in December the grass is definitely not green, yeah, he decided that Texas is where he wanted to live, and the rest is history. First generation Texan right here. So yeah, Trump's really just been losing it lately, and it's not just gaffes. A lot of people on the right try to explain this away as, it's just a gaffe. He was traveling, he got Sioux City, Sioux Falls. What's the difference other than an entire state? One's in South Dakota, one's in Iowa. Well, I mean, what's the difference, right? Rock stars do it all the time. Problem is, he's just not doing that many rallies. He's just not doing that many rallies that he wouldn't know. Sherry Foster, always appreciate the support. Donald Trump has really gone off the deep end for sure. Yeesh, yeah. And we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it. He did that prayer breakfast. He did that prayer breakfast the other day that was aired on Newsmax, and Jane Doe here says he thinks Obama is president, and we're gonna talk a little bit about that. Um, and at that prayer breakfast, he talked about how Joe Biden was going to drag us into World War II. Again, everybody on the right tried to explain it. Oh, it's just a gaffe, just a gaffe. He did, of course, he didn't really think, mean to say world. He meant to say World War III, World War III, of course. But no, no, it's not just a gaffe. It's over and over and over again. As you just said, he thought he defeated President Obama back in 2016 for the White House. And which is really, really odd for him to screw up in his brain, given all the chants that were going on when he said that of lock her up, lock her up. Remember lock her up? I mean, I remember. I know you remember. You would think that the guy that benefited from all that would remember who the lock her up chants were about. But no, he says he defeated President Obama to become president. Which, Hillary Clinton, I don't know exactly how she would feel about that, to be honest with you. I honestly don't know how she would feel about the fact that he can't even remember who Russia helped him defeat. But we've got more. I mean, we've got more. This is from this week
You don't
also.
mind if I go off teleprompter like a lot, do you? So much more exciting. So much more. But the head of Hungary, a very tough, strong guy, Viktor Orban. Did anybody ever hear of him? Probably, considered very powerful within his country and outside of his country.
He's an abusive dictator, and again, Trump's love of abusive dictators, but that's not what we're focused on here.
Not exactly loved by some of the European nations because he does his thing. He didn't allow millions of people to invade his country.
Forgive me for continuing to interrupt, but yeah, Viktor Orban does his thing. He's an abusive dictator. That's his thing.
He allowed nobody to invade. Zero. He had nobody. So he doesn't have crime, and he doesn't have the problems that they're having in other countries where millions of people are allowed to go in.
There's crime in Hungary. Yeah, there's crime in Hungary. There's a lot of mafia activity in Hungary. Yeah, this is he doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. Not surprisingly.
Go in, but they were interviewing him 2 weeks ago, and they said, "What would you advise President Obama? The whole world seems to be exploding and imploding." And
President who? President who? He's talking about a conversation. Let me back this up. He's talking about a question that someone supposedly just asked Viktor Orban. Listen to this.
having in other countries where millions of people are allowed to go in. But they were interviewing him 2 weeks ago, and they said, "What would you advise President Obama? The whole world seems to be exploding and imploding." And he said, "It's very simple. He should immediately resign, and they should replace him with President Trump, who kept the world safe. And I'm not just talking the United States, China."
Okay, this man does not know who the president of the United States is. This man does not know who the president of the United States is. He's trying to, tell a story about something he saw from Viktor Orban, which is worse because Trump didn't actually see it. Somebody writes this stuff for him. Um, yeah, but he's riffing off the top of his head, and he's saying, "Yeah, Viktor Orban, this tough guy that I really like, this dictator that I really like, was talking about the current president of the United States, knowing that I'm running, and they're saying that they should just take Obama out of office and make me president." The president is not Obama. Last time I checked, it's President Biden. The guy, this moron, this drooling dipstick keeps accusing of being in cognitive decline, even though President Biden is doing an incredible job. We're leading the world in economic growth. That's just a that's not a "oorah America" thing. It's just numbers, math. But you got former President Trump, who cannot remember that the person that succeeded him in office is Joe Biden. And it doesn't stop there, folks. It doesn't stop there. I mean, he just cannot keep track of who people are anymore. We've got more. This isn't a rally down in Florida. They just had down in Florida.
Before the season starts, we start in
Or pardon me, South Carolina. I apologize. He's down in South Carolina talking about Jeb Bush down in Florida.
Iowa, we go to New Hampshire, we come down here. You know, the beauty was when I came here, everyone thought Bush was going to win. And then they took a poll and they found out Trump was up by about 50 points. Everyone said, what's going on right here? They thought Bush, because Bush supposedly was a military person. Great. You know what? He was a military. He got us into the Middle East. How did that work out? Right. But they all thought that Bush might win. Jeb. Remember Jeb? He used the word Jeb. He didn't use the word Bush.
Does anybody know anything about Jeb Bush that I don't know that would make him a military person? Because I know he damn sure didn't get us into the Middle East. That would have been W. Appreciate the support, Marjorie. I really do. Thank you. That would have been W. And you are not president of the United States. And I understand that you clearly know the difference between Jeb Bush and George W. Bush and George H.W. Bush and what they did to our country. Who did what? Yeah. Haiku says W, Jeb, same thing, right? No, not even close. Not even close. Let's listen to what he has to say about Jeb Bush.
The word Bush. I said, you mean he's ashamed of the last name? And then they immediately started using the name Bush. Never forget it. But we came for the.
So, yeah, he thinks that somehow he shamed Jeb Bush into using his own family name because Jeb, if you don't know, is an acronym for John Ellis Bush, which is his whole name. He didn't want to go by John Bush. Down south here, he adopted the nickname Jeb. Old Jeb shooting at some food. I don't know why people think that stuff's endearing. As someone that was born and raised in the South, it's not. It's not endearing. But yeah, Jeb didn't start using the Bush name because Donald Trump shamed him into it. He's just having these delusional things. He can't keep track of who people are. He can't keep track of what's going on around him. We saw at the trial last week, he just stood up and walked out under stress. He just stood up and walked out of a trial. Who thinks that they can do that? Nobody. And it's not because he's particularly bold or particularly he's just not. He's just not, people. He can't remember where he is. He can't remember who is president. He can't remember what era we're in. He thinks that we're going to get into World War II. And attorney, this is a good question. Is it possible that attorneys will plea insanity? I do believe that when the criminal trials happen, he's going to turn into Vinny the Chin as soon as he's convicted and it's time to move to the sentencing portion. He's going to turn into Vinny Chin Gigante. If you don't know who that is, he was the New York mob boss that famously when he went to trial, started walking around in public in a nothing but a bathrobe and drooling on himself and acting crazy, and it was all an act. It was all an act. Trump's going to try to do the same thing, but we've got more from Trump here.
Obama Biden administration, I signed the VA Accountability Act. They were trying to get it done for 59 years, and we got it done through Congress, believe it or not. Obama Biden administration, I signed the VA Accountability Act.
No, no, they weren't trying to get the VA Accountability Act done for 59 years. It was the VA Choice and Transparency Act of 20, I believe it's 2014, when Obama was president, got signed into law. That was the one. Remember when they were talking about modernizing the VA, moving from stacks and stacks and stacks and stacks of paper piled in rooms and nobody could keep track of anybody's records, to putting it all online, and that's what they were had been trying to do for 59 years, was to modernize the VA to provide better care. The bill that Trump signed into law was just to make it easier to fire federal employees. That's all his bill did. Nobody waited for that, and nobody really wanted it. All he did was sign a bill that took away employee protections. That's the bill he signed in 2017. He didn't do anything to actually improve the VA. He just made it easier to fire employees. And despite this, and despite what's going on with him, despite his cognitive decline, we've got the billionaire frat boy club that's just piling in on Trump. Of course, Bernie Marcus, 94 years old, still trying to engage in his social engineering crap, has endorsed Trump and vowed to write unending checks to Trump's super PAC and his campaign. I don't know about you guys, but I am tired. I am very, very tired of these billionaires and their social engineering programs. I'm tired of the games that they play. Bernie Marcus thinks that everybody's gone soft. We don't know how to work anymore. He's 94 years old. He's lost his damn mind. But he's got about $8 billion in the bank. He's got about $8 billion in the bank. And Home Depot, anyone want to dance? Great comment here. Well, I won't be spending my money at Home Depot. Great point. Home Depot keeps screaming that Bernie Marcus isn't part of our team. He left years ago, and yeah, but he still makes money off you, doesn't he? Yeah, it's just all of these, you got Tim Dunn and Ferris Wilkes down here in Texas doing the same thing. Social engineering. Bunch of billionaires think that they know what's wrong with society. There was an experiment. They took people and they put them all down to play Monopoly. Now, it's a real experiment. You can Google it. And they gave one person at the table an extra roll and more money in the beginning of the game. And that person always won. But when they interviewed everybody at the end of the game, the people that lost pretty much well accepted, I lost because of the way I played. They didn't say, oh, I was taken advantage of. But the person that won, that had all the advantages, always claimed it was because they were so damn good, and never attributed it to the fact that they were given an extra roll and extra money. They didn't start the game where everybody else started. That's human nature. That's what people do. And that's what these billionaires do. Now that they're off and comfortable and living their best lives, they can't just go and be happy. They can't just go and enjoy themselves. No, 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 no. They think they made it because they're special. Earth system, thanks. I appreciate that. Best Sunday AM coffee show, biggest heart in political news. Thank you. I appreciate that. I try. I try. They go off and they have to engage in this social engineering. Ferris Wilkes, one of the worst, folks. All of this school voucher stuff down here in Texas, he wants his church tied into our government so damn bad he cannot see straight. He thinks that is the savior of America. The America in which he went from being a laborer to a billionaire is apparently broken. I mean, put that logic together. I mean, this guy and his brother went from being laborers that were considered kind of deadbeat credit risks. They had a reputation to getting into fracking at the ground level, and then they became billionaires. What a system, right? I mean, hell, I mean, if that happened to me, I would be screaming, God bless America all the damn time. But that's not what happens with these people. They get to the end, and just like that old Monopoly experiment, they're like, I'm here because I am so damn good. And you people are all broken. And your average person just sits there and says, well, I'm where I'm at because I did the best I could, and this is my lot in life. No, man. No, no. We've got screwed up systems here in the United States. We do. Other first world countries take much better care of their people. Just basic human dignity. What is the level of basic human dignity? Here in the United States, it is much lower. Much lower. Other governments understand it's their job to serve their people. All too often, our government thinks it's their job to serve billionaires. And that's just the way it is, folks. But these billionaires that have made it, they're never happy. They're never happy. They never look and just say, you know what? This was a good ride, man. This was a good ride. Let's see if we can make it better for anybody else. No, no, it's always that same damn view. Like Bernie Marcus. Bernie Marcus thinks everybody suddenly became lazy because we didn't all create a freaking Home Depot. Can you imagine that world? Can you imagine that world where everybody creates a Home Depot? I had news for you. If everybody creates a Home Depot, nobody has a Home Depot. But that's the way they think, folks. It's the way they operate. And these Republicans are the worst at it. They think we're horrible, they're amazing, and they've got to just manipulate our world, and take away all the softness that is America. I mean, Jesus, these free schools are just ruining everybody. College education. Well, I mean, why would we want everybody college educated? How lazy is that? It's insane. It's insane that we let these people do this. And we didn't used to, folks. And I'm going to do something that nobody's going to agree with. We used to have a 90% tax bracket. And for folks that don't understand how tax brackets work, it's really simple, folks. You know, first amount of money you earn, you pay nothing. Next layer, you pay this amount. The next layer of money, you pay this amount. And then the next layer, you pay this amount. And once you reach that top layer, You pay this big number right here, unless, of course, you can claim everything's in your business, in which case you pay nothing. We used to have a 90% tax bracket because we said, look, if you think idle hands are the devil's playboy, you ought to see what idle billions do. Well, actually, it was millions at the time. And when the 90% tax bracket was created, do you realize it applied to one human being on the face of the planet? When the 90% tax bracket, there was one man on our planet that it applied to. Nobody else was wealthy enough. It was Johnny Rockefeller. Nobody else was wealthy enough at the time. But then they lowered that over time to 70%, which, I don't complain about that. I don't. But then, as a lot of you are commenting in the comments there, because you are the best audience in the world, you're incredibly intelligent. Ronald Reagan came along, and Ronald Reagan just thought, I ought to keep all my money. Screw the government. And he created loophole after loophole after loophole. Well, when you say screw the government, look outside, folks. What you're saying is screw our infrastructure, screw our safety. Everybody comes to the United States to invest. I don't know if you've noticed that, but the end goal is to come to the United States to invest. Why? Safety and security. That's why. We're a peaceful nation. You're safe here, despite what the 2A gun nuts tell you. We are safe here. Your money's safe here. We have real laws that apply where people can't just steal your money. I mean, as far as the rest of the world is concerned, I mean, we are where you want to put your money. US treasuries are the cornerstone of just about every major portfolio out there. Oh man, that coffee's I hope to hell your coffee's as good as mine. This is some good coffee this morning. But anyways, back to Trump. I know I took a left turn there, but yeah, we need to get back to taxing these people so that the Bernie Marcuses of the world don't have money laying around that they can just decide that they're going to socially engineer our society. I mean, folks, it's ridiculous. Half of us, half of us own nothing. Half of us have no wealth. When you slice the country in half, the bottom half have nothing. From the middle to the 97th percentile, you got about this much. You've got about this much. You think you're doing good. I know so many people that have small businesses, that just think they're rolling, man, because they can buy a side by side and take a hunting trip. You don't have shit, man. You don't know what wealth is. You cannot wrap your head around Bernie Marcus level wealth. Garth Brooks came out and said it more eloquently than any politician could. He said, I've got more money than my grandkids could spend if they never worked a day in their damn life. I mean, you're talking about people that have so much wealth, they could spend your annual income every day, and their wealth would still keep growing because of the interest on the wealth that they have. That's just a few thousand people in this country. Out of 320 million, it's just a few thousand people. They have that kind of wealth. And they really believe they got there because, man, they're special. And they aren't. More often than not, Bill Gates is not special. He's lucky. Lucky. He was in the right place at the right time. He invented a product under our laws, which allowed him to protect that product that was part of a social revolution that was happening. It was going to happen whether Bill Gates was there or not. We were going to get to Linux and other operating systems. He just happened to be in the right place at the right time and came up with a system that everybody kind of liked in the middle of an extreme technology revolution. He's not special, people. He's not. He's kind of a half-ass coder, to be honest with you. So, back to Trump. Back to what we're talking about with Trump. He is out of his damn mind, and because the appeals court has suspended his Chutkin's gag, he feels like he can just run out and say whatever the hell he wants, and now he's attacking Jack Smith. But not just Jack Smith, he's attacking his family.
Deranged Jack Smith. Have you ever heard of him? He's a lovely man. Do you ever see him with the purple little thing? He's a lovely man. The Trump-hating prosecutor in the case, his wife and family despise me much more than he does, and he decides, I think he's about a 10. They're about a 15 on a scale of 10. And he was involved, Jack Smith, the deranged one, I call him. Deranged Jack Smith. Have you ever heard of him? He's a lovely.
So yeah, now he's going after Jack Smith's wife. You've got the billionaire frat boy clubs that are back behind him, funding his nonsense yet again. Funding his nonsense yet again. Here we go, folks. And just like in 2016, and I'm not going to go off in this little tangent. I know folks are tired of hearing it, but it is a distraction, and Russia is funding. That is one. That is one way they're trying to suppress our vote on the left. Then we've got RFK Jr. that they'd hoped would suppress our vote on the left, which blew up in their face because it turns out that people really, really on the right really like that anti-vaxxer. They just do. So while that's not drawing as many votes away as they had hoped, maybe a few. But not if you're ride or die, people. Not if you're ride or die. Then we got Jill Stein coming into the race. He thinks she's going to peel off a few. No, we've seen what happens there. And it's going to be more. We've got a year. We're just now getting into it. And what they're going to try to do is separate us. They're going to try to not win us over. They've given up on that. The troll movement has given up on trying to win people on the left over because we're not fascists. But what they have figured out is that they can make us fight amongst ourselves. And they're going to try to make Trump president because he's a drooling, incompetent moron, and he will damage our country. He will. And he's surrounded by people, and we're going to do a deep dive into the 2025 project that are ready, willing, and able to make Trump a fascist. They've come up with game plans so that all of the things that tripped him up in his one term will not trip him up this time. They're going to make sure the safeguards aren't there. They're going to make sure there isn't a Mark Milley there. And he has come out and he has said exactly what he's going to do. Donald Trump has told us that he absolutely intends to weaponize the government. He intends to attack anybody that has a different idea, you, me, everybody, to utilize the institutions that he is in control of. I want you to think about the next attorney general if it's Trump. It won't be a Bill Barr. It'll be a Jeffrey Clark. It'll be a simp that has no spine. And they will. They'll come after me. They'll come after everybody that opposes Donald Trump. He said he was gonna do it. I mean, he came out, folks, and this is not me saying, "Oh, be afraid. I think he's going to do this." No. He said he's going to do this. Mom to Husky says it's Hitler 2.0. It's worse than that. It's worse than that. Hitler thought he was a genius. You know, if Hitler hadn't thought he was a military genius and just let his generals, there were so many instances that we may have actually they may have actually won. You know, Hitler's fascination with Stalingrad destroyed his military. Trump, that's not going to be the case. Trump is surrounded by people that are well-funded, competent people that are fascists at their core. They're people like we just had that huge victory with in Ohio. Proposition 1 put an amendment into the Constitution securing people women's rights to bodily autonomy. Yeah, the Republicans there just said, we're not doing it. Not kidding. Republicans in Ohio have said, we don't care that your amendment passed. We're not doing it. There isn't a specific law written into that constitutional amendment, so we're just ignoring it. And to make sure that the judiciary can't take any of our draconian laws off the books, we're going to pass legislation taking power away from the courts. Not an exaggeration in the slightest, folks. This is literally what the Republicans have said that's their plan in Ohio. We're going to be watching it very, very, very closely. Nanette Snowden, great to see you. Great comment. Oh, you got away from me. You got away from me. So many comments. But yeah, Nanette Snowden just said that is their plan. They have told us, just like Trump has told us. Facebook user, can't they be sued? That's exactly what they're saying, is that they're going to pass laws to make sure, because that's the process, folks. Now that this constitutional amendment's been put on the books, you have to sue, and you have to give the courts the right to review the existing laws that are out there that don't jive with the Constitution now. Then they take those laws out, they strike those laws down. The Republicans are saying, we're never going to let it get to that. Their plan of action is to now cut the legs off of the judiciary so that they can be, yeah, Snow Leopard says, Reich wingers. That's a great one. Reich winger. But yeah, Trump is way more dangerous than Hitler. Way more dangerous than Hitler because he has people around him. Hitler, at least was incompetent. He was delusional. He thought he was the best. He maintained control. Trump's lazy. Trump is lazy. The people around him can just say, "Oh, you're doing such an amazing job." This, that, and the, oh, okay, great. I mean, the man will not even read briefs. He just will not. If somebody gives him enough compliments, they can let him do they can do anything in his name as long as they tell him it's bringing Trump glory. And believe me, they will. They've told us. They've told us what they're going to do. Listen. So as you see these events unfolding that are, out there that are designed to wedge us, don't let it. Don't let any events anywhere in this world distract us and divide us. We have to be ride or die Democrats. We have to show up at every election. We have to do it. Well, we have had some amazing talking about on the world stage. We have had some amazing news break. There's been a lot of speculation as to what happened with the Nord Stream pipeline. Y'all remember that back in September of 22, the Nord Stream pipeline uh, was blown up. It was. That was a pipeline. Let's go to the map. I'll show you where it is. One second. I'll bring the map up. The Nord Stream pipeline runs from Russia to Germany. This is Europe. And for my European folks that are here in the audience, glad that you're always here. Let's confirm for the rest of the audience that I know what the hell I'm talking about. Okay, the Nord Stream pipeline ran from here in Russia, a little town called Vyborg. Nord Stream 1 ran from Vyborg, Russia, all the way to Germany, Greensfeld, Germany. Nord Stream 2 ran from down here from Ust-Luga, Russia, all the way through the Gulf of Finland. So as you can see where we are on the map, all the way through the Gulf of Finland, through the Baltic Sea, down through the Baltic Sea. Then it passed an island here that it's south of you see Sweden, but this island, it's called Bonholm Island, is actually part of Denmark. The Nord Stream runs right south of Bonholm Island. Nord Stream 1 is about 40 meters of water. Nord Stream 2 is in about 80 meters of water right off this island. And it runs down and finally connects here to Greifswald, Germany. This is where the Nord Stream pipeline came in. Now, what's important about that pipeline was it wasn't just Gazprom. It wasn't just a Russian funded pipeline. Western oil companies spent a lot of money on this pipeline. And when it was blown up, they were pissed. They were pissed. Europe was pissed because they had invested a lot. Right now, the pipelines that exist run across land, and every border they cross takes a bite. Ukraine being one of them. Now, it's one of Ukraine's great sources of income is off the gas and oil that gets shipped across its country into Europe. They take a bite. They tax it. When the Nord Stream 2 pipeline was built, it bypassed because if you can build a pipeline out in the ocean and far enough out, nobody can claim it, so you don't have to pay anybody. I mean, think about how logistically difficult and how expensive it is to build a pipeline in the sea. Why would you do that? Well, you do it because it economically makes you a lot of money. You don't have to pay anybody. And that's what they did. They just kept it out in international waters so they didn't have to pay people, a transit tax on the gas and oil they were shipping. So someone, right after Russia invaded Ukraine, blew up the Nord Stream pipeline. Both of them. And I said, we did it. I really did. And I have to tell you, I'm telling you folks, when I tell you something and I'm right, I crow like a rooster. When I'm wrong, I tell you. I was wrong. Everybody said Ukraine did it. Ukraine did it. And I said, well, there's motives there, but I don't think that they were operational, really ready and capable to do it. Turns out they were. Turns out their special ops are pretty damn good. We have a story that was just broken by the Washington Post and Der Spiegel in Germany, and it's about Colonel Roman Chervinsky. Let me share. You see, get a good look at old Roman Chervinsky. This is Roman Chervinsky, and he's not a sayer; he's a doer. This guy is good. He is good. Um, this is the special forces operative. He reported to Major General Viktor Hanishek in the Ukrainian military, who reported directly to Valery Zaluzny. You've heard me talk about Zaluzny before. Let me remind you of who Zaluzny is. Got a picture of him here somewhere. There he is. This is Valery Zaluzny. I've told you this man is a great military mind. He really is. He is going to be remembered in the history books. This is Valery Zaluzny. He's the head of the Ukrainian armed forces. Roman Chervinsky, Colonel Roman Chervinsky, uh, was engaged in a sensitive enough operations that not only did he report to Victor Hanishak, he also received approval for his operations from General Zaluzny, because he did things like kidnappings. He kidnapped a witness for Ukraine, a Russian, that proved that they shot down Malaysia Flight 17 in the Donbass. That was Roman Chervinsky that did that. Let me pull him back up. While I talk about him, I want you to be able to see who we're talking about here. That was Roman Chervinsky. He also lured some senior Wagner officials into Belarus and kidnapped them so that they could stand trial in Ukraine. This guy's competent. I mean, he's very competent. At this point, though, he is saying this is all Russian propaganda. While he cops to everything he did, and you see him here, this is in a Kiev court. He is standing trial right now. He's not in a good place, and it's interesting politics. I'm telling you, when things that don't make sense, it's like a piece of glass in my brain, and I just have to I just pick at it and pick at it and pick at it, and I'm trying to get the feeling. I think there's more to this that's going to happen, because this came out of Germany. It did. This information came out of Germany. They're the ones that have been really digging on this, but this is not something that Olaf Scholz, the chancellor of Germany, wants to come out. Olaf Scholz, he's very much a war hawk. He's very much in the line in line with Poland, in that they need to end this Russian threat in Ukraine. He's just doubled. I mean, don't take my word for it. I'll show you. He's just put forward an aid package for Ukraine that doubles their support of Ukraine. I mean, as far as Ukraine's concerned, Olaf Scholz is all in. So for this to break out of Germany really kind of is weird. And the reporting says that they're getting cooperation from officers speaking, you know, anonymously out of Ukraine. And this really doesn't serve Ukraine, because Volodymyr Zelensky has traveled all over Europe reassuring them that they did not destroy this pipeline. This is an embarrassing situation, because Europe was highly pissed when they lost the Nord Stream pipeline. This meant higher gas prices, folks, both natural gas and gas for their vehicles. I mean, it made perfect sense for Ukraine. I'm really kind of proud of them when I explained to you how they did it. I mean, these are some incredibly resourceful people. And yes, independent Slava Ukraini. Okay, absolutely. I love these people. I never knew how much I loved Ukrainians. I mean, historically, really cool, but I never knew how much I actually loved Ukrainians. Um, but yeah, this is actually kind of weird, and it's bothering me a little bit because the motivations are wrong. The motivations are wrong. Let me give you a little bit about what happened. This is the Andromeda. It's a 50-foot sailboat. Nice looking boat, huh? Well, it turns out that Cherninsky, Chervinsky, pardon me, and 5 other people leased this boat out of Germany, and they went to Bornholm Island. Back to the map. They sailed out to Bornholm Island and then engaged in one hell of a diving operation because, 40 meters is one thing. You can do 40 meters on Trigas, but this is Bornholm Island. They sailed out to about right here on the map. To about right here on the map. Because remember that this is where the pipeline is turning south into Griesfeld, Germany. I want you to think about this. They're on a sailboat. And this is not easy to do. 80 meters of water is deep. That's the very limit of Trigas. I mean, uh, and Trina Langen, thank you for always thank you for the support. She says we don't want a dictator. We want a democracy. We vote blue and don't listen to third parties. Don't let third parties fool you. Vote for Biden. He has done more for people than this is someone in Europe, folks, looking in from the outside. They know. They know. Listen to what she has to say. Don't let them divide us. I want to go back to talking about Chervinsky though, because this is really I just have been following what's been going on with this. Because, like I said, I really believed it was going to come out that we blew up that pipeline. We did. Um, 80 meters is pretty damn deep to pull off a diving operation. You need special gas mixtures. You really need highly competent, well trained people and the right equipment to pull it off. This is uh, this is a Navy diver. Let me blow this up for you so you can get a good look at it. There you go. That's a Navy diver. That's the kind of suit you need, commercial diving suit that you need to actually pull something like this off. And you notice he's got an umbilical there. Um, I just want you to imagine this. I want you to imagine this. And no, they didn't use somebody put or a robot. There are technologies out there, but Ukraine didn't have them. We actually know now what's happened. Chernovsky really pulled this off with 5 well-trained divers. And I want you to think about that for a second. That is some cold water, folks. Ask our European friends. That is some cold water on a good day. On a good day. It is just below freezing at 200 feet down. You need not only commercial diving suits, but you need warming suits because you have to attach. Uh, First of all, you're dealing with explosives. It is completely dark. It is so cold that if you don't have special warming systems, you can't control your hands and you're attaching explosives to a pipeline. These guys were freaking good. I mean, you've heard of decompression. You don't just dive down there. You don't. You just don't dive down there and say, okay, I'm going to just lay this on this pipeline and it's all going to be good. It's all going to be good. No, no. The currents down there, you cannot just lay some explosives on a pipeline. You have to attach it to the pipeline. You do. and they did, and did an amazing job and blew 3 holes in 2 pipelines. That was incredible skill. I mean, I don't mean to rave about, uh, about that kind of activity, but I am impressed with these guys. The Ukrainians just constantly impress me with how well they handle these things and how well they do things. But again, I can't help but look at this, and I want you to, because you're not know nothing people. You know things. You pay attention. You see things, how things work. I appreciate the support, Lucky Star. I really do. Keeps the lights on around here. Keeps the internet flowing. Pays for the subscriptions that where I rely on decent journalists to actually put these things together. And this is what I'm bringing to you. Thank you, Uncle Fatty. Yeah, it's just 262 feet deep. Uh, That's a lot of pressure. I mean, you've been to the deep end of the pool. Imagine what 262 feet feels like. But who's leaking this and why? I don't I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it. They tend to not divulge things like that and end up having it blow up in their face later. So I believe it. I believe it. But why? The government of Germany doesn't want this. The government of Ukraine doesn't want this. The operative that is this is being divulged about doesn't want this. He doesn't. I mean, if you want to take a if you take a look, this is from a Ukrainian court. Okay, this picture is from a Ukrainian court. He is not in this cell because of this. This he's in the cell because he's on trial for disobeying orders. This guy made an arrangement with a Russian pilot to defect and then gave that Russian pilot coordinates of an airbase he could fly to. And the Russians caught him before he could defect. And the Russians destroyed that airbase. They took out a lot of Ukrainian jets. They killed a lot of Ukrainian pilots. It was a field base. It wasn't something that was established that the Russians would have immediately known about. It would have been something they would have had to discover uh, utilizing intelligence techniques. It was his leak by going after this pilot without authorization when he was told not to do it. He did it anyways because he wanted to get a pilot to defect. So he's on trial for getting Ukrainian soldiers killed. He's not on trial for the Nordstream pipeline, and he's denying it himself, although they pretty much will have him dead to rights. So again, Ukraine, Zelensky does, Volodymyr Zelensky definitely doesn't want this to come out. He has gone all over Europe and assured people, we didn't do this. Valery Zelensky doesn't want this. He has run a very tight ship. The Ukrainian military is working like a well-oiled machine. He damn sure doesn't want this. Olaf Scholz doesn't want this. He wants everybody to keep supporting Ukraine so that the war stays in Ukraine. All of this says plausible deniabilities Zelensky might not know. That's a possibility. That crossed my mind that this was a rogue operation that he did not authorize. That did cross my mind, which is why I'm explaining to you why Chervinsky is in jail right now because he's gone rogue before. And the author says they are hard to repair. Actually, they're not going to repair the Nord Stream pipeline. Gazprom's given up on it. Um, with all of the sanctions in place, the oil companies can't work together. The money can't be brought together. The Russia's economy is collapsing, people. They're heading into hyperinflation. They have just you understand how China and Russia works. You watch House Sparks, you watch me, you know we've told you over and over and over again. If Russia tells you it's raining outside, your house was just covered in water in a flood. I mean, that's how it works. Russia themselves have had to acknowledge that their projections for next year were wrong. They expect a little bit more inflation. Everybody else in the world is expecting hyperinflation starting next year. Russia runs out of money next year. They are going to have to go into high gear printing rubles, and it's going to destroy their economy. Oh my God, this is good coffee today. God, I hope your coffee's as good. Oh, man. And don't judge me, people. I'm not a drug addict. I'm not a drunk. Other than coffee and bratwurst, I pretty much don't have addictions. As far as addictions go, I'll take coffee any day. This also, we have presidential elections coming up next year in Russia. So yeah, they're not going to rebuild the Nordstream Pipeline. Is where I was going with that. The money's not there. The cooperation's not there. Um, so yeah, who do you think's leaking this, and to what end? That's what worries me. To what end? Why is this coming out now? This is definitely a wedge issue. This pisses France off big time. This really pisses France is getting killed with high energy prices. Macron is holding on by the the little bitty tips of his fingernails, man. This is not going to play well in France. This is going to be a dividing wedge in Europe. Why would anybody in the Ukrainian government cooperate with this investigation, especially when it was Der Spiegel and Washington Post? Linda, thanks for the info. This text. I visited the Ukraine in 1975 and other former republics of the USSR. My grandparents were from Ukraine. Beautiful place. I'm glad to have you here. I'm glad to have you here. But yeah, I mean, does anybody have any? This smells like a Russian infiltration to me. It does. Trying to undercut support in Germany for Ukraine, drive wedges into Europe. I think the Ukraine may have a turncoat problems on their hands, and they had to know. The Washington Post and Der Spiegel can all day long claim that they're going to protect their sources. They're not going to outdo intelligence services from Germany. They're not. They're not going to outdo the intelligence services from Ukraine. They're going to find out who the sources are. Why? Why? Anybody have any good ideas? Because I'm telling you, let's lead that into the roundtable discussion. And as you think about that and come up with some good ideas, because I'll be honest with you, other than this is just a highly successful Russian op, which worries me, I can't think of a good reason why this is happening. One last bit of news. I told you about, I did a story about Michigan and the sign stealing. They've come out with a ruling before the investigation is complete. They've suspended Jim Harbaugh for the rest of the season. A lot of people were screaming like, "Oh, that's just a slap on the hand." This and that. That's not the end of it, folks. That's not the end of it. Coach Harbaugh has been suspended from attending games. He can still practice with this team. He can still prep everything, but Harbaugh can't go to the games for the rest of the season. And they are going to continue this investigation. And this will be, in my prediction, I'm gonna stick my neck out of here, the end of the Jim Harbaugh era at Michigan. I believe he is going to end up. He and Michigan are going to part ways because what the NCAA is going to come out with is going to be brutal because this was bad, folks. This is as bad as it gets. Flatlander, good comment. Why? Because Russia doesn't want Ukraine becoming a member of NATO. True. Absolutely true. You know, this does actually throw a wrench in that. I mean, this is Ukraine acting against the interests of its European neighbors. Although it was brilliant. I mean, you have to admit it was brilliant. It really was brilliant. I mean, Russia could have just continued this war on forever, selling gas through the Nordstream pipeline. And anytime that they could have gotten Germany to look more at its self interest, they could have just turned the pipeline on anytime they wanted. That's not an option anymore. Everything has to go through Ukraine. So yeah, any questions you have, any thoughts that you have, let's do this. We haven't had a good roundtable in the last few shows. Yeah, like I said, they could turn it on anytime they wanted. Great point, Greg Edmond. I appreciate that. They had already shut down the Nord Stream pipeline, but they could have turned it on at any point. Think about it. If you're Russia, what, you know, you can schmooze people, you can bribe people, you can get people to look at their own self interests. You can take your European partners that you've buddied up with to build this pipeline, and you can have them put pressure in Europe to serve your interests. If the pipeline's gone, you can't. Bridget McKinney says Tuberville is on all of it, holding up our servicemen and women. It's giving Putin an upper hand and to stop Ukraine from getting into NATO and ultimately drag us into World War III. I don't think anybody wants World War III, to be honest with you. I really don't. I think everybody has figured out, and I will say one thing about what's going on in Israel. Had this happened 30 years ago, we would be looking at a worldwide, a region-wide conflict in the Middle East. We're not. We're not. There are no governments other than possibly Syria that want to be involved in any kind of war in the Middle East, and it shows. It shows. Israel is going to eliminate Hamas in a few weeks, and that'll be the end of it. There will still be 2.45 million Palestinians in Gaza. And the one thing I'm going to say about Gaza, God, I wish I could run that place for just a couple years. I mean, they've had a couple decades. It's on the Mediterranean, folks. I have to laugh when they call it an open air prison. Have you ever seen a prison that has beaches, fishing fleets, boats, sailboats, luxury boats? No. That place could be Ibiza. It really is beautiful. It really is. It's on the Mediterranean. It is not ugly territory. And had the leadership there not focused on war for the last 2 decades and tried to figure out how to kill its neighbors, Jesus, man. I mean, think about what Gaza could be. It'd be amazing. It really could be amazing. And I hope they get there. I really do. I hope they get there. I hope after Hamas is gone that the people that are left in Palestine just start rolling, that they utilize what they've got available to them, and they have a bright, beautiful future, because it's possible. It's possible. Alothus, Israel's telegraphed this. They gave notice. They're in there right now. They're defending Palestinian lives right now. IDF soldiers are dying. You don't hear it in the news because that's not what they're reporting right now. I've never really seen such a failure of our media as what I've seen over this. But yeah, IDF soldiers are right there dying because Hamas was shooting Palestinians that were trying to leave the war. All of this, they could have done that anytime. They could have. Israel has beautiful beaches too. Israel's entire coast is on the Mediterranean. They have everything. You're talking about a little wedge, man. A little wedge. Israel has this. Gaza has this. Yeah, that doesn't make sense. No. Right now, Israel is doing what they said they were going to do. And you're getting more and more Palestinians that are speaking out. They are. They were being held by Hamas, and they're now free to move out of this damn war zone. And here's the thing: I've got a question for you. This will be over in a few weeks. It will. It'll be over in a few weeks, and there will still be about 2.5 million Palestinians minus Hamas and the poor civilian casualties that happened. Um, but there will still be about 2.5 million Palestinians there. What next? There is going to be a next. What do you think the outrage is going to be now that Hamas is going to be gone? I think we need to get ahead of this because we really lulled ourselves into a place where we shouldn't have been because there was a ceasefire from 2019 on brokered by Egypt. It was a pretty calm time. So really, when the attacks on October 7th happened, we weren't really prepared for the troll attacks, and it's caused a lot of misinformation. So what now? What's going to be next? Ida Garza says Gaza could be a tourist hotspot, but Israel controls everything that happens in Gaza. Actually, they don't. The Palestinians have run Gaza for about 2 decades now, not Israel. I would like to see Israel leave after they're done. I would. But that's not the position they're starting at because you don't start at your negotiating position. They're demanding things out of the Palestinian Authority. It's a negotiation right now as to who's going to. That's where we're at, folks. There's negotiations going on between Israel and the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank to take over Gaza. The Palestinian Authority will take over Gaza. Israel has security demands. Alothus, I appreciate what you're saying there, but again, that's a talking point. The Palestinian Authority, talking about power and whatnot. The Palestinian Authority actually handles all the contracts for all the infrastructure in Palestine. So while Hamas does have preeminent control in Gaza, because nobody will do business with Hamas, all of the business is conducted through the Palestinian Authority. It's just the way it is. Hey, good question there, Missy PA. Do you think we'll have a government shutdown? Absolutely. Absolutely. Preacher Johnson cannot control his caucus. He can't. And he doesn't want a shutdown. I mean, think about the hammering that the Republicans just took. That election was just God, I love you people. I love you people. All the polls, oh, Democrats are in trouble. You people are like, the hell we are. The hell we are. Get out of my way. I'm going to the booth. Um, he can't control his caucus. He can't. You've got the half-assed insane Republicans, and then you've got the all the way insane Republicans, and they want different things. And if Johnson makes a deal to keep the government open, the super crazies will kick him out as speaker. If he doesn't make a deal to keep the government open, the half-ass crazies will kick him out as speaker. No one can control that caucus right now, but it all ends in a government shutdown. It does, because That's the only way Johnson survives, is that if he gives the crazies their shutdown, but then eventually folds, that's the only way this goes forward for him. And that's all he really cares about is him. Tom Jules, great comment. Johnson is Johnson. Absolutely. I mean, think about it. Think about what you know about human nature and Republicans. If they shut it down, Johnson can make a deal. He can placate the least of the crazies over here for just a little while, fold into a deal. We Democrats will give him something. Some rich bastard's going to get something so that we can just be normal, and then we'll move on. And the Republicans will get hammered for this in the next election because of what they are. Winston-Salem, exactly. What a freaking train wreck. I mean, Republicans are a disaster. We need a second functioning party. And the only way you get it, thank you, Lynn. That is a great comment. Absolutely the truth. Katie Porter is a badass. Um, the only way you get it is if you destroy the Republican Party. Is the only way we get a second functioning party. Because right now, the billionaire frat club isn't allowing enough breathing room for another party to come up in place of the Republicans. If you destroy the Republican Party and make them just a tiny minority in our government, the billionaire frat boy clubs can't engage in their social engineering. They've got no avenue to do it. And finally, we will get enough daylight for a real opposition party to flourish, which is my goal, folks. I don't want Democratic Party supremacy. I don't. I am a ride or die Democrat, but I also know human nature. And I know that if we get a long term without opposition run, we'll become extreme, just like they did. We will. We have to have an opposition party to keep us grounded. At least that's how I feel. Uh, I think we operate best as a country when we have at least two parties that are functioning, and that is the only way to do it. Because of the money swirling and surrounding the Republican Party, that's the only way to do it. You have to defeat the billionaires. And we have to do it in such a way that when these Republicans say, "Oh, we're losing and we're dying as a party," screw democracy. We've got to have enough power in place to be able to survive that. So yeah, I'm glad you agree with me, Jill Lucas. I'm glad you agree with me. That's why I'm telling you. We may disagree on world events. You know, that's what it means to be a ride or die Democrat, is you fight for what you believe in. But when election day comes, there is no daylight between us. We are voting for who's on that ballot as a Democrat. And if we keep doing that, as you can see, this off year election, we were supposed to get creamed. We were. An off year election, Republicans have an advantage because they vote out of the churches. And those people are obsessed with voting. They always show up, no matter what election. We normally stay at home in off year elections. We have lives. We're interesting people. We do shit. So a lot of times when it's just amendments or just, ballot measures, a lot of times we just don't show up in those off year elections. We show up when there's a big marquee election, there's a governor or a president on the ballot. That's when we show up. We've changed that. We absolutely, not in just an off year election, in an off year election. We absolutely showed up and got it done because you people get it done. And what I'm saying and what I'm preaching and what and I'm hoping you will take this. Jeffrey Havinga, thank you. Yep, we need to stop staying home. Truth, truth. We haven't even shown our full strength yet. We haven't. We still have a reserve of people that think and feel like us that don't yet show up at the polls. Get them. That's why I'm saying I don't this isn't Texas, Paul. This isn't Texas, Paul. Yeah, I show up and I talk, but we're a community. We impact things. We get things done because this is us. You folks need to amplify. Yeah, I'll give you the whole self-serving pitch. Show people this, get more people in our audience, bring more people here, please. But beyond that, beyond hitting the subscribe button or hitting the thumbs up button, beyond that, in your life, in your social media, because I know you all have social media pages. Let's see the folks that are on Twitter. Let's see the folks that are on Twitter alone, or Threads, or Facebook, or TikTok, or Snapchat, or any of the platforms. We still have a reserve on the bench we haven't gotten to yet. Get them. Get them. When I went to vote last time, I rounded up grandkids. I did. I would come on, you come over, Papa. We're gonna go do something. I made sure they were all registered to vote. All my grandkids that are old enough are registered to vote. And when an election comes, like we just had all of these ballot measures, I had all the information. It was all written out. Here you go. That's how you vote. Papa, I don't know what's going on. That's okay. You trust me? Here you go. You can't talk about all of the ballot measures with your grandkid. You can't. Their eyes are going to glaze over, and then they're not going to want to do it with you. But if you meet me, I'll take you to vote, and then I'll take you to lunch. Do it, people. Do it. Come on, let's do it. Well, I love you folks. I really love spending time with you. We're about an hour and a half in. Pretty please hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. Check out the Texas Paul store. We throw new mugs out every month. We're going to come up with something new. Right now, we're doing the Thanksgiving. We've got the Gobble Till You Wobble mugs out. Um, I love that mug. I love that mug. I really do. Gobble Till You Wobble. Check it out. See if there's something there you like. The Christmas mugs will be coming out soon. And by all means, it's a beautiful Sunday out. Y'all go have a wonderful day. Enjoy yourselves and get to work.